In our last chapter, we walked through the heartbreaking loss of little Charlie. But in this next chapter, life moves forward, and we see how much work it was to keep a family of 6 in clean clothes. Today's chapter is called Wash Days. Life was hard for Julia. Washing the family laundry was done on an old-fashioned washboard. 2 tubs were set up on a frame that had a wringer in the middle. One was for washing the clothes with soap, usually Fell's naphtha, a bar soap which she would shave into the hot water with a knife. The other tub held the rinse water. In cold weather, this took place in the kitchen. Fortunately, there was a pump called a pitcher pump by the sink, which drew water from a well dug beneath the back porch. But of course, it was cold, so it had to be heated on the wood-burning stove. This was fine in winter, but in the summer it made the kitchen really hot. Every family of this generation had a copper boiler, and the Szabo family was no exception. It was a flat-bottom container with rounded ends about 30 inches long by about 12 inches wide and 13 or 14 inches deep. It would be filled with soapy water and brought to a boil on the kitchen stove. The really dirty clothes, Alex's oily work clothes, and the boys' play clothes were boiled, taken out and scrubbed on the corrugated washboard, and then perhaps washed again with the regular wash. Other items were boiled with bleach, simply to get them as white as possible. A product called bluing was added to the rinse water for the white things to make them appear brighter. The blue dye counteracted the yellowing which white things experienced with age. Today, all these elements are included in our automatic washer soaps and include a fluorescent dye for brightness. But Julia had to take care of each problem one step at a time, and each added to the enormous amount of labor that was required to keep a family clean and presentable. This all took its toll on the housewives' hands, which were usually chapped and rough. The clotheslines were in the side yard. In the summer, the sunshine and the breezes would give the clothes that delicious fresh smell. In the winter, they would freeze solid as boards, but the moisture would still evaporate, and they would still be fresh and sweet-smelling when brought into the house to warm up. This fresh laundry would remind one of a flowered meadow after a summer shower. In good weather, the equipment was set up in the backyard in front of the garage, and the children took turns turning the wringer for her as she fed clothes from one tub to another, and then from the rinse tub ready to be hung up. She had big pockets in her apron, or a bag which hung around her neck to hold the clothespins. She would fold the sheet double so that it wouldn't touch the ground, and then starting at one end, pin it to the line with a clothespin, then placing a pin every foot or so until she reached the end, where she made the last pin do double duty. Everything had to be anchored securely, as the wind would often create quite a flapping of the laundry. Not every wash day was sunny, and sometimes a shower would come up. Then everyone would rush out into the yard to take down the still damp clothes to protect them from the rain. Then they would have to be put back up again when the rain was over. Ironing was done on a padded board placed on the kitchen table. She had 3 flat iron bodies with one handle that would fit all the irons. They were heated on the cook stove, and when one was used until it was cool, she would place it back on the stove and get the next hottest one. With little ability to control the temperatures, she would have to be very careful not to scorch the linen. Of course, there was no such thing as permanent press, so every garment had to be ironed. For those items requiring starch, which was a good part of the wash, chunks of Argo starch would be dissolved in the final rinse water. Washing for a family of 6 would be a full day's program, traditionally on Monday if the weather was good, and the next day would be ironing day. With all the other things she had to do, there was always a big basket of laundry waiting to be ironed and occupying a corner of the kitchen. The boys used to wear corduroy pants, knickers, until they were about 12. Each night they were carefully laid under the mattress to be pressed. In the morning they would look freshly ironed. When Lucille first started school, she wore the European-style black bloomers and high-top shoes. After enduring much teasing, Julia eventually dressed her in white panties and baby Jane's shoes. There was always a bow in her hair during her elementary school days. An Irish neighbor, Mrs. Hart, was a professional seamstress and made many of her early school dresses. If you've been enjoying listening to my grandmother's life, be sure to like, share, and follow so that you won't miss future chapters. And if you have missed any, just go back to the playlist I created called My Grandmother's Life, and you'll be able to catch up.